Hello students of Standard 9. Welcome to the e-learning classes of DAV Mile Public School. Subject Science. Our today's topic is Fundamental Unit of Life. What is cell made up of? What is the structural organization of cell? We saw above that the cell has specialized components called organelles. How is a cell organized? If we study a cell under a microscope, we would come across three features in almost every cell: plasma membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. All activities inside the cell and interactions of the cell with its environment are possible due to these features. Let us see how these look like. Plasma membrane or cell membrane. This is the outermost covering of the cell that separates the content of the cell from its external environment. The plasma membrane allows to permit the entry and exit of some material in and out of the cell. It also prevents movement of some other materials. The cell membrane therefore is called selectively permeable membrane. How does the movement of substances takes place into the cell? How do substances move out of the cell? Some substances like carbon dioxide or oxygen can move across the cell membrane by a process called diffusion. We have studied the process of diffusion in earlier chapters. We saw that there is spontaneous movement of substances from a region of high concentration to a region where its concentration is low. Sometimes similar to this happens in cells when, for example, some substances like CO2, which is cellular waste and requires to be excreted out by the cell, accumulates in high concentration inside the cell. In the cell external environment, the concentration of CO2 is low as compared to that inside the cell. As soon as there is a difference of concentration of CO2 inside and outside a cell, CO2 moves out of the cell from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration outside the cell by the process of diffusion. Similarly, O2 enters the cell by the process of diffusion when the level or concentration of O2 inside the cell decreases. Thus, diffusion plays an important role in exchange of gases between the cells as well as cells as and its external environment. Water obeys the law of diffusion. The movement of water molecules through such a selective permeable membrane is called osmosis. The movement of water across the plasma membrane is also affected by the amount of substance dissolved in water. Thus, osmosis is the passage of water from a region of high water concentration through a selective permeable membrane to a region of low water concentration till equilibrium is reached. What will happen if we put an animal cell or a plant cell into a solution of sugar or salt in water? One of the following three things could be happen. If the medium surrounding the cell has a high water concentration than the cell membrane, that the outer solution is very dilute, the cell will gain water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as hypotonic solution. Water molecules are free to pass across the cell membrane in both directions, but more water will come into the cell than will leave. The net overall result is that water enters the cell is likely to swell up. Next one is if the medium has exactly the same water concentration as the cell, there will be no net movement of water across the cell membrane. Such a solution is known as isotonic solution. Water across the cell membrane in both directions, but the amount going in is the same as the amount going out. So there is no overall movement of water. The cell will stay the same size. And the last one is if the medium has a lower concentration of water than the cell, meaning that it is a very concentrated solution, the cell will lose water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as a hypertonic solution. Again, water across the cell membrane in both directions, but this time more water leaves the cell than enters it. Therefore, the cell will shrink. Thus, osmosis is an spectacular case of diffusion through a selective permeable membrane. Now, let us study different cell organisms. Cell wall. Plant cells, in addition to the plasma membrane, have another rigid outer covering called the cell wall. The cell wall lies outside the plasma membrane. The plant cell wall is mainly composed of cellulose. Cellulose is a complex substance and provides structural strength to the plant. When a living plant cell loses water through osmosis, there is shrinkage or contraction of the content of the cell away from the cell wall. This phenomenon is known as plasmolysis. We can observe this phenomenon by performing various activities. Remember the temporary amount of onion peel we prepared. We had put iodine solution on the peel. Why? What would we see if we tried observing the peel without putting the iodine solution? Try it and see what the difference is further. When we put iodine solution on the peel, did each cell get evenly colored? According to their chemical composition, different regions of the cell get colored differently. Some regions appear darker than other regions. Apart from iodine solution, we could also use safranin solution or methyl blue solution to stain the cells. We have observed cells from an iodine. Let us now observe cells from our own body, just like this, which is shown in the given diagram. Our important topic is nucleus. The nucleus has a double layered covering called nuclear membrane. The nuclear membrane has pores which allows the transfer of material from inside the nucleus to its outside, that is, to the cytoplasm. The nucleus contains chromosomes which are visible as a rod-shaped structure only when the cell is about to divide. Chromosomes contain information for inheritance of characters from parent to the next generation in the form of DNA, that is deoxyribose nucleic acid molecules. Chromosome, the composed of DNA and protein. DNA molecules contain the information necessary for constructing and organizing cells. Functional segments of DNA are called genes. In a cell which is not dividing, this DNA is present as part of chromatic material. Chromatic material is visible as entangled mass of threads-like structures. Whenever the cell is about to divide, the chromatin material gets organized into chromosomes. The nucleus plays a central role in cellular reproduction, the process by which a single cell divides and form two new cells. It is also play a important role will develop and what will it form exhibit at maturity by directing the chemical activities of the cell. In some organisms like bacteria, the nuclear regions of the cells may be poorly defined due to the absence of a cellular containing only nucleic acid is called as nucleotide or nucleide. Such organelles whose cells lack a nuclear membrane are called prokaryotic or primitive, with or organisms with cell having a nuclear membrane are called eukaryotic. Present in eukaryotic cells, many of the functions of such organelles are also performed by poorly organized part of the cytoplasm. The chlorophyll in photosynthetic prokaryotic bacteria is associated with membranous vessels but not with plasmids as in eukaryotic cells. Cytoplasm. We look at the temporary mount of the onion peel as well as human cheek cells. We can see a large region of the cells which enclosed by the cell membrane. The regions take up very little stain. It is called the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is a fluid contained inside the plasma membrane. It is also contained many specialized cell organelles. Each of these organelles perform a specific functions of their cell. Cell organelles are enclosed by the membrane in prokaryotic. Beside the absence of definite cellular regions, the membrane-bound cell organelles are also absent. On the other hand, the eukaryotic cells have nuclear membrane as well as membrane-enclosed organelles. The significance of membrane can be illustrated with the examples of viruses. Viruses lack any membrane and hence do not show characteristics of life until they enter a living body and use its cells machinery to multiply. Now it's time to check your knowledge about today's topic. Here are some questions as your assignment. I hope you understand today's topic. We again meet with new video. Till then, stay at home, be safe, be happy.